University Board of Trustees. Could we acknowledge our staff? Tonight's lecture was made possible by Mr. Daniel L. Goodwin. Mr. Goodwin is a graduate of Northeastern and holds a number of firsts. He was a member of the first freshman class to attend Northeastern at the St. Louis Avenue campus. He was the first person and the first president of the Northeastern Student Government. He was the first alumnus to be awarded an honorary doctorate by Northeastern. He was the first and only alumnus to serve on the Board of Governors of Illinois State College and University. He was the first person to commit to a multi-million-dollar gift to the university. And he was the first chairperson of the Northeastern Board of Trustees, where he served for 10 years. We are grateful for Mr. Goodwin's leadership and support, and would you please help me in welcoming him to the stage for brief remarks.
All right, well, thank you for that warm welcome. Welcome to the NEIU lectureship series. And if you look on the screen, which you probably can't help but see it, it's so big. On the screen, it shows the prior speakers that we had. And when you look at these speakers and you know their backgrounds, you must admit that there's no other agenda here. There's no political angle. There's no other theme. We have simply invited people from different walks of life, people that were well known, and people who had different political, financial, and other beliefs. And I think we've had a good balance. And that's what we tried to do with tonight's program. We tried to have a good balance. And I think our guests will prove that to be true. And to be extra safe, we asked Mr. Ponce to narrate. And as you all know, he's a journalist from Channel 11, actually a lifetime journalist, and somebody who has a reputation for fairness and objectivity. So, keeping that in mind, it's my pleasure now to see another event and take maybe a new step. A step I've always wanted, a little bit of controversy. And I've told Dr. Gibson that although the other events weren't boring, it'd be nice if there was someone who protested and not regret those thoughts. But overall, we feel that this is what a university is all about. The university differences in thoughts and opinions. And that, I think, says a lot. This university is committed to free speech. It's committed to free thought. And that's how we've acted in the past, and that's how we're responding tonight. And that's why we were all in agreement to give the protesters a chance to demonstrate, give the protesters a chance to be heard. And we've done that. And we respect their right to demonstrate in the same vein that we respect the constitutional First Amendment. And I can tell by the applause that many of you support freedom of speech as much as we do.
my pleasure to actually turn things over to our moderator. He is an esteemed Chicago journalist who has been in the business for a number of years. I'm sure you all know him. He works just across the street at WTTW, where you know him as the host of Chicago Tonight. Please, let's put our hands together and welcome our moderator for tonight, Phil Ponce.
Donna Brazile and Sean Spicer. Spicer, you fucking scumbag, kill yourself!
That's not very nice.
Do anything for a buck, school too! Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll see as the evening progresses that the concerns that have been raised on campus will be addressed. And if you'll give us a couple of minutes, you'll see where the discussion is going. And believe me, we are aware of the concerns, and I will specifically address the concerns that have been raised by the people who are objecting to Sean Spicer's appearance tonight. We hear you, we know you're there, and those questions will be posed. So I ask you for your patience and your goodwill. A lot of people here want to hear both of them. You know what? If we agreed with everybody what an uninteresting world it would be, sometimes maybe this world is a little too interesting. But I ask you to give the evening a chance, okay? Before we get started, I would just like to say that this program is going to run until about 8:30, but both Donna Brazile and Sean Spicer have graciously agreed to stay a little longer, depending on how the flow of the evening is going. And so we'll ride this tiger as long as we can.
We're the Golden Eagles, right? We're the Golden Eagles.
Donna Brazile, as some of you may remember, was the commencement speaker here a few years ago, and received an honorary doctorate. So let me tell you how the evening could go this evening. This is my plan. Of course, it's flexible. But as I mentioned, we want to spend a little time, 10 to 15 minutes, discussing some of these specific concerns that the university, some people in the university community have raised regarding Mr. Spicer. I'll take that up with him at the beginning. And then I'd like to spend about 10 or 15 minutes on each of the three stated topics: politics, the presidential election, and dealing with the press. You know, I hear that shouting outside, and to me, that's a sign of health. It is a sign of health that we live in a country where people can be yelling and protest, and at the same time, we have the ability to have a robust but civil conversation. So again, please give me a chance. Please give the evening a chance, and we'll take it from there. Before we get started, please have your ringers off on your cell phones. And students, faculty, community members have submitted questions online, and I'll be incorporating those questions throughout the next hour or so. But before we get started, Sean, you're good at this. How big of a crowd do you think we have? What I would like to do in all seriousness is, I'm not going to read the statement in its entirety, but I would like to paraphrase the statement that was part of the petition that was signed by several hundred members of the university community. And then, Sean, I'd like for you to respond, not necessarily point by point, unless you want to, but just to the overarching concerns that are raised in the statement. And here's how the statement goes. And again, this is paraphrasing it. And please trust that I did my best to be accurate. The statement reads that signers are appalled that you've been invited to speak here, and that is an insult to members of the NEIU community who are members of groups targeted with violence and vitriol by the Trump administration. That you were the willing mouthpiece for the president's vicious assaults on immigrants, people of color, women, LGBTQ people, Jews, Muslims, and other oppressed groups, and that you and the president have caused and enabled violence and terror to the communities that many of the students here come from, that you lied repeatedly as White House press secretary and made groundless accusations of bias against media outlets, and that your lies promoted hatred, scapegoating, and discrimination. You promoted racist, sexist, homophobic, and anti-immigrant practices, and that these practices have had violent consequences, including death for immigrants, people of color, Muslims, and other members of oppressed groups. It concludes by saying that your presence here sends a disturbing message to students here from targeted communities that bear the brunt of the administration's practices. And to this end, we have a question from an NEI student who asked, do you feel that you were asked to repeatedly lie to the American people? If so, was that difficult for you, and how did you proceed?
Yeah, since you read the letter, I'd like to start with that, if I might. It's fascinating when well, first, let me just, I think, start with this. When a group of people on either side seemingly tries to speak for everybody, meaning that to suggest that somehow there's no one here at NEIU that's a conservative that supports the current administration, I think is a stretch in the very least. This country is fairly evenly divided right now, plus or minus in terms of support for one party versus another.
38% as of today.
Well,
President. Go ahead.
Okay. My point being is that the left continues to talk about tolerance and inclusivity, except for those who don't agree with a far left progressive agenda. And the fact of the matter is that this administration won 306 electoral votes. States like Pennsylvania. Hold on, let me answer. Hold on. You read a letter. Let me respond to. Hold on, please. Then you talk about violence. Hold on. Listen. No. You read a letter. Let me answer the question.
Go ahead.
Okay. I will. You read an entire letter making serious accusations against me. At least give me the respect to be able to answer. Let's talk about violence. This is the problem. You want to dictate, you want to control the conversation. Let me answer. I'm sitting here, I'll answer any question you have. So let's talk about violence. You want to talk about who got shot on a congressional softball field? Republican, by a Sanders supporter. You want to talk about what Hillary Clinton said? You can't be civil to the other side. Eric Holder said, when they go low, we kick them. Maxine Waters said, when you see a group of Trump administration officials, form a crowd and push back. If you want to talk about violence, no.
The question on the table right now from the student has to do with the extent to which you lie.
Yeah, after you read along. So the answer is this. I am and was a spokesperson for an individual. My job is to go out and repeat the thoughts and views of whoever is the principal at the time. If they don't like the answer or the policy, that's not my problem. My job is to communicate the announcements, the policy decisions of the principal that I represent. That's it. That's plain and simple. That's like accusing you as a reporter of reporting on a story and saying, how dare you bring it up? You covered this story. That's your job. Not to pick and choose what the news is. So, I mean, the answer is you may not agree with certain policies, but my job as a spokesman was to go out and represent those. And when someone asked what the president believed, was to say this is what he believed. My job wasn't to go out and call balls and strikes and say, well, I don't agree with that, or I don't think this. If you ask what does someone believe, my job was to tell it. In the same way that your job is to say, here's the story, here's what happens. Your job isn't supposed to be interpreted. It's supposed to tell what those facts are, what happened.
Okay, yeah, let's just talk a couple of examples, specific. We don't want to get into the weeds too much because there's more we want to talk about. But two of the things you said, widely considered untruths or widely inaccurate, that is, has to do with number one, the size of the crowd at the president's inauguration, number one, and number two, you repeated the president's false assertion that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote because millions of illegal voters voted for it.
Yeah.
Those are just a couple.
Sure. So on the first one, again, I don't know what I just said. I was asked very specifically, what does the president believe? And my job was to say, this is what the president believes. You're taking issue with me repeating what his belief is. That's when I asked the president, hey, I'm being asked a question, they want to know what you believe. I said, okay, I wrote it down and repeated it. That's not necessarily my view on a whole host of issues. My job is to answer the question. You just don't like the answer. It may or may not be right. With respect to the inauguration, I've been very clear. That is a day that I wish I could take back over and over. Because we woke up in a day, and forgive me, but let's go, I have to explain the context. We start a new administration, we bring the press corps in to go over what happened, what we've been doing that day, and what's the first thing that your colleagues in the media cover? Not what's going on, not the policies. They search around the Oval Office and go, oh, the bust of Martin Luther King has been removed from the Oval Office, which was false. But instead of focusing on the news, what was going on, they were figuring out how do we get this guy right off the bat. And what did we do the next morning? We woke up and we see cable commentary commenting on, oh, well, this wasn't a great inauguration, here's how many people weren't. And we went into scramble mode to talk about the support that the president had. We were trying to figure out how many people had watched it online, how many things, and trying to aggregate different things. I take responsibility for the fact that clearly that was not articulated well. I've been very clear about that. But there was no, you actually go back and look at what the sentence was. It was, this is the greatest audience to ever witness online or in other places. And when you look at the traffic, so just to be clear, this wasn't even a partisan thing. The platforms that the inauguration was streamed on didn't even exist during Obama's first inauguration.
Although, without getting party history too much, the clear implication was, and
I just said, and I said that I don't think, I've been very clear that I wish I constructed that argument much, much better. But, I can't go back in time. I've been, I think, fairly upfront with the fact that I wish I could have done a better job communicating what we intended and it wasn't as muddled. But that's all I can do.
Okay, Sean, as to the question of what happens though if the president asks you to repeat something that you know is not true?
There's a difference between someone saying, go lie about this, and someone being asked, what is your belief on something? I believe several things that you may not agree with, especially when it comes to my religion. You may say, well, I'm an atheist. I believe that that's crazy.
Tell me
Hold
about
on.
facts.
I know. When I am asked to what someone believes, it is not my job. I'll go in sometimes and say, well, Mr. President or whoever, they're going to ask these follow-up questions. How do you think that, based on what we know here and here, this is where we're going to have problems with the follow-up. What do you think? The job is to help them understand the reaction to some of the things they say or some of the announcements they want to make. But at the end of the day, when someone asks, what does someone believe? Your job isn't to go out and say, but I don't agree with it or this is where they're wrong.
although you did assert that the president was correct in his statement of fact that millions of people voted for Hillary Clinton.
No, I said, when you look at the transcript, it says, the president believes the following.
All right, look, let's move on, and we could spend all night on individual points, and probably would not be a worthwhile exercise. But just real quickly, the second major point of the petition is that you were the willing mouthpiece for the president's quote vicious assaults on immigrants, people of color, women, LGBTQ people, Jews, Muslims, and other oppressors. Reaction to that?
All right, so let's start with the Jewish community. I think this president's been probably one of the staunchest advocates of Israel, hands down. What he has done, whether it's the embassy, the support for Israel, the aid to them, I don't think that that's at all a fair accusation at all. With respect to
when you were press secretary, for example, he also made a statement about loyal Jews do not vote for Democrats. But go ahead.
no, that wasn't one. That actually wasn't one.
That did not happen. That's
No,
what I'm saying.
right. That was not while I was there. I think, look, the president's been very clear. He campaigned on a strong stance on immigration, on border security, and by and large, a lot of people support that position. So I think there's a difference in. I'm a firm believer in this country being a nation of immigrants. That is our strength. That is where we grow. But I think that there is a large swath of this country that believes that we do need border security, that we do need to make sure that we have immigration laws that are respected, that we are a nation of laws, that when people understand what it takes to come into this country, we don't respect those who actually did it the legal way.
Well, during your tenure, to try and look at the point of view of the people who signed the statement, there was a crackdown on immigrants, there were initial steps to build a wall.
Oh, not immigrants. That's not true. If you want to talk about facts,
Okay.
on illegal, people who are not in this country legally. It wasn't on immigrants. It was on people who weren't in the country legally.
Okay,
So hold on.
Okay.
So if you want to have a conversation about facts and lying, let's try to, be clear about this.
Thank you for clarifying
Yeah.
that. I appreciate it. But there was also a travel ban on Muslim majority countries. There was removing categories relating to sexual orientation from the census. Cutting funding to Planned Parenthood, decreased protection for students.
First of all, none of this is, I'm not going to be going point by point, but Planned Parenthood has been an issue for the Republican and conservatives. I think it's even not specifically Planned Parenthood, but we are a party of life that's believed that. I don't think that's a shocker in the Republican Party. I'm glad to go down the list, but what else do you want to talk about?
Well,
my point is, pick another one and I'll answer. I don't care.
all right. LGBTQ, for example.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give my time to
I said the first 10 to 15 minutes with Sean. I want to respect some of the issues that were raised on campus. Here's from an NEIU alum. You said on April 24, 2017 that Trump, quote, has a heart and wants to make sure he does what's in the interest of children. In particular, after seeing the crisis at the border, do you still believe that? Do you think putting children in cages or ripping families apart is, quote, in the interest of children?
No, but I also think that you've got a massive funding problem. So the answer is no. I think it is horrible to see children treated that way, but it is also horrible to know that they get trafficked. I think that we have had a flood of immigration at the border. Our system is not able to take care of it, and part of the problem is that we've created a magnet system for coyotes and others to benefit from bringing people up. And so at the same time, if you care about children, then let's talk about children. Let's stop letting them get trafficked. Let's make sure that we actually don't create a magnet system that allows coyotes to use children as a means to get other people into this country. Let's also make sure that if we're going to do this, hold on, let me answer the question. If you don't like the answer, that's the problem. Hold on, let me finish.
I want to clarify, Sean, I want to clarify what you're saying. So by putting children in cages, you create a disincentive.
No, first of all, I didn't. Don't please. Yeah, I know where you're
following up on.
Yes, following up. I just said from the get-go, I absolutely think that is wrong. It's heart-wrenching to watch children or anyone, any individual, any human being treated that way. But I think that we have to make sure that if we have 50,000+ people coming over our southern border, what is the alternative? Just to say, hey guys, go for it. I don't know, but right now we either have to fund this as a Congress. You've got a Congress that won't fund bringing all of those spaces up to standards, which they should be, but you can't have it both ways. You can't say that you stand up for immigration laws and making a country of laws, and then saying, oh my gosh, you're stopping people at the border from coming in here illegally.
Maybe that's not really the choice involved, but for example, the middle ground might be
No, that they
enforce the law, but maybe you don't separate families.
Okay, and then what happens with and I think that to the extent that we can keep them together, absolutely, but you need to make sure that the child is actually the child of those people and not being you.
Okay, you know what, I would like to move on to some of the other larger topics, and again, the agenda we want to cover is the press politics and the presidential election. Donna Brazile, I'm glad you're with us tonight.
I wouldn't have brought a ticket if it was on sale, because I like this kind of conversation.
But
And I know you, baby, you can throw all the heat you want at me. I'm from Louisiana. If I can't stew it, I'll burn it. If I can't burn it, I'll fry it. If I can't fry it, I'll figure out a way to smother it. So what you got to say?
Donna, you already know the questions I'm going to ask. I sent them to you.
Because no one else is addressing it. The fact that a black woman had to tell a network that we should have a debate on these topics and then tell the candidates that they had to address them. Yes, I got in trouble because I was willing to say we had to talk about criminal justice reform and that we had to talk about the Flint water crisis. I took responsibility for it, and you know what? I did my job.
Yes, you did.
Donna, you've been around a long time. You ran a presidential campaign for Honduras. You observed the White House, and I would like to know your response to this. He's already touched on this, but as you see it, what is the role of a press secretary?
Well, I've never been a press. Yes, I have been a press. Let me back up. I've had so many roles in life that I love acting. So I have been a press secretary. I've been a communications director. I've been a chief of staff. I've been a campaign manager, and I was party chair twice. I've worked on, and I'm also a part-time college professor. And I'm not afraid of the Senate, I'm not afraid of debate, and I'm not afraid of somebody disagreeing with me. Sean and I disagree. We disagree on so many topics. The criminalization of Muslims, of immigrants, of reproductive rights. We disagree on many topics, but the fact that I can debate them and have a conversation and do it with civility, that's what our freedom of speech is all about. Shut up. I want to argue with them and I want to win the argument so that we can win the next election in 417 days.
Back to the question. As someone who has observed the White House for as long as you were politically involved, what do you see the role of the press secretary?
The press secretary has always been the spokesperson for the candidate or the cause of the campaign, period. I have served as a press person for candidates running from city council all the way up to the president. And let me just tell you, it is a tough job. If they say the sky is blue, your job is to go out and say, the sky is blue. And behind your back, they're like, damn, that's not blue. That's the job of the press secretary.
How many times did you have that experience, Sean?
Let me tell you. I'll tell you, y'all know I have stories. Y'all know I had a big mouth in politics. I used to think my name was Shut Up. Because I ran my mouth so much. And I'll never forget, and during the Dukakis campaign, some of y'all might be old enough to remember. I know a lot of y'all are millennials, and y'all remember. But in the Dukakis campaign, Governor Dukakis said that he was not willing to go in the ditch to fight some of the ads, the nasty ads on Willie Martin and the rest. I decided that day I no longer wanted to be his press spokesperson, and I wanted to go in the ditch and throw the mud right back. So I know the difference. Because that day when I did not use the talking points that were given to me or the press release that was agreed upon, by the way, some of the press statements is so, it's milquetoast. I mean, it's all poll tested. We have to say what we think you believe so that you all agree with us. But we can't say what you believe because you won't be with us anymore. And so yes, that is the role of a press secretary. You are representing your, quote unquote, your boss, not your point of view. But hopefully, when you're doing it, you're representing the truth. The truth should be something that we all agree on, right? And what worries me today, when you look at the American people, you have basically lost trust in all of our major democratic institutions, from the media, to academia, to sports, to religion, to business. I mean, there's not one, the only institution in our government, in our democracy, that still enjoys the support of the American people is the military.
We've got to move on.
We got to figure out a way to change that, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, we won't have a democracy.
Sean Schweitzer, what responsibility does a press secretary have to the media?
To who?
To the media, to report.
I think the responsibility is to ensure that there's access and messages and an open line of communication. I think that's your responsibility, is to make sure that they get information, that they have access to, whether it's staff or the principal or whomever, and that's it.
Okay, while you were press secretary in February of 2017, after the president's speech at the Conservative Political Action Conference, where he declared certain media outlets to be fake news, you temporarily barred the New York Times, CNN, and Politico from the daily White House briefing.
No, that's actually not true.
That's not true?
Never happened. Nope. Sorry.
So,
So here's what happened. I had a group of folks in my office that came in after that speech.
Were they racist like you?
Hey, if you're gonna say it, come down here and just show yourself, big boy. Have a.
Actually, thank you for the invitation.
Is that free speech? Yeah! What's that free speech?
You know what?